Okay, this is the introduction of our podcast. I'm Eric Stafford. This is my co-host, Kelly Rocheleau.
Yo.
And this is the first attempt, so we're gonna see how it plays out. Basically, we'll be trying to do it once a week, maybe twice a month. We don't know how it's gonna play out as far as regularity, but it's gonna be a mix of entertainment, movies, comics, pop culture, things like that. So we got 2 days after the Super Bowl, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So biggest thing about Super Bowl commercials. Personally,
the stuff that you care about, right?
Exactly. Whether you're sports or not sports, everyone loves the commercials. We both discussed this already. Nothing really, I don't know.
Yeah. Because every year, they're like, oh, the commercials. It's like the height. For as far as advertising, it's like the peaks. Because a lot of times, like they use that to like launch the rest of their campaign for that year, as far as I know, and not a whole heck of a lot really stuck out to me, unless of course it involved a sheep singing queen.
Or the puppy baby monkey.
The nightmare fuel.
I would say that there were quite a few actually that stood out to me, but not in like the best way possible. I guess
like the puppy monkey baby.
Like if the goal of the advertising teams were to make audiences remember that incident, the ad, and it was the first one we could touch on, I suppose, probably one of the weirdest, is a puppy baby monkey. And
puppy
do you
monkey
remember
baby.
Puppy monkey baby?
See, yes, that's just because the little abomination, the little CGI abomination thing says it like 5 million times in the commercial.
Okay, so
yes.
And see, now I was terrified enough to not remember that, but to know it was some combination.
Exactly. Yeah, you knew that it was some weird amalgamation of things.
And I don't remember seeing it. I might have missed it when I was watching the game. But going back and watching it after the fact and like late night by myself on my computer.
Big mistake.
Headphones on. And I guess I wasn't expecting. And
you were not prepared.
I wasn't really. I feel like when you watch it with a group of people, maybe you'll kind of giggle and laugh uncomfortably.
Yeah.
When you're by yourself, you don't giggle and laugh. You're just like jaw a little slightly agape, and you're like, "What is this?"
Yeah,
So your initial reaction to it was,
why? Because I didn't see it during the game. My girlfriend told me about it, and she was like, "Did you see this?" And like, I'm just like in the hallway. I'm turning it on. I'm about to get a drink of water, and I'm like, and as I'm looking at it, I was just kind of glad that I didn't have the water beforehand.
Sure.
The spit take. But it was just, God, it was bad. It's just like this weird amount. If you haven't seen it, it's like a bunch of guys like in a blank room, like playing video
an apartment
games,
sitting on a couch,
and then this thing.
And the wall opens up like a trapdoor wall, and it's got a baby's bottom with diaper on, and then it's a monkey's torso.
Yeah, and then like a pug
face.
Yeah,
and he comes running in.
Yeah,
like
and he says,
on
"Puppy
two
monkey
legs.
baby, puppy monkey baby." Just like it's like if you were to get a bunch. If you were to like get a bunch of like 5-year-olds and be like, "What's your biggest fear?" I feel like that would be the result. Just be like this weird kind of, like weird disturbing thing.
And I'm sure that's probably what they were going for. Now, do you remember what the product was?
It was Mountain Dew.
Do you remember what about it?
It was supposed to be like juice. Like that was the point. Was three things that you love together. Yeah,
it was the only thing
Yeah, and you could tell that it was one of those weird things that can only come from the minds of the internet.
I had to watch it multiple times before I remember what and that was my point. I didn't remember.
No, it completely overshadows.
I would have thought it was a beer commercial thinking back on it.
You would need to be drunk to.
And possibly, and my brother, who we were talking about it, said that he thought the idea behind it was that let's get like the cutest things ever. Get babies.
Yeah, that's what they said. 3 things that you like together.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what they say in the commercial.
And it's like, okay, I like pizza, and I like strawberry shortcake, and I mean,
And like spaghetti.
Yeah, well, those are three great things, but when you put them together, it makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, it's like chocolate licorice. There's a reason why nobody eats that stuff.
So, I mean, it's people are talking about it. We're talking about it.
It worked.
I mean, it's yeah. So they accomplished their goal. But
yeah, I don't know how that's gonna translate to.
I'm not gonna buy a Kickstarter by Mountain Dew next time I look at it. In fact, it's probably gonna keep me away from it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how that's gonna translate to sales for them. But, whatever.
Someone will buy it.
Yeah.
So next one, you talked about it in the opening here, the sheep commercial singing Queen.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the song was?
Yeah, it was Somebody to Love, which is a song that I hadn't really heard a lot until the last, couple of months. It feels like one of those things that the culture has just embraced again.
I knew it was Queen.
Yeah.
I recognized the chorus a little bit.
Yeah.
Honda Ridgeline truck. That was what the commercial was for. I guess, I didn't do any didn't watch it multiple times.
Deep analysis
I saw
or
it
anything?
once. Did you get all I remember is that it had audio in the bed of the truck. That was kind of the selling point.
Yeah.
And it had a trunk in there. So I guess I didn't was it the sheep heard the song because it was in the bed of the truck?
I think that's what it was. And so they had just been singing it because their mouths are moving. Mm-hmm. So they're clearly going for it.
Uh-huh.
You had the little Freddie Mercury sheep, which is, I love the fact that I just got to say Freddie Mercury sheep.
Yeah.
And so, and then you have the chorus and then, because you don't even really see the car until halfway through the commercial, if I recall.
Yeah, you see parts, it's a truck, but you don't. And then the end, it gives a shot and it shows you got the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the way that you do a good commercial, and it's got a catchy tune, it's got animals.
It has to be quick, obviously. You're going to get it.
And so, I like the commercial. Did I say it was particularly, did it stand out from all the other ones? Not specifically, but honestly, of the commercials that I remember seeing, I remember that one probably the most.
Yeah, yeah.
So, that one, and then also the Drake one.
Yeah, yeah.
That was my favorite one.
That was pretty smart on their part to use something that people have been talking about a lot. The video that spawned 1,000 memes, or 1,000 GIFs, I should say.
And which I just love the idea of it. I'm talking about the music video here as far as, hey, I thought of it as Drake, they had this music production and they were like, oh, you know what, we went over our budget. You got to just go out and throw some dance moves out. And
yeah,
he did. It was great, like you said, memes, Christmas sweaters, got the turtleneck.
Yeah.
And the guy in there, it was the guy that was in front, has been in quite a few. He's been in the Burger King commercials.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where you're like, oh, that dude!
He was the Sony spokesman.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
Yeah, he's the definition of a that guy. Which is a term for a character actor who's, you have no idea what his name is, but you've seen him in 300 different projects.
Sure, yeah.
Whether it's a commercial or a TV show, and he was in it for 5 minutes or...
And it was, what were they saying? They were like, hey, it was used to call me on my cellular device, not something.
Yeah.
I forget what
got for free, and then Drake's yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, he goes,
I'll do that.
What's great about it is it wouldn't even change the meaning of the song. It wouldn't even ruin the song, which that's what I love about it. And they're all laughing. And then the final part was, hey, can we get in the box?
Yeah.
And then it's just...
Yeah, three people with the briefcases and the suits, the slow motion.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it. So that was a roundup of the commercials we deemed most entertaining.
Or at least the ones that stuck in our brains.
2 or 3.
Or in the case of the Puppy Monkey Baby, our nightmares.
Exactly, a nightmare creature would be a good way to describe the Puppy Monkey Baby. I said it right.
It sounded. See,
Puppy Monkey Baby. There was a lot of licking in it.
Yeah, because he kept. Yeah, see, it's so many weird little uncomfortable things that maybe that's the reason it won. I guess it was a contest, wasn't it, or the Kickstarter thing?
See, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I don't know either. I'd rather not know anything about it. I just like to think of it as just this thing that happened. But it's because there's licking. It's this thing that just intrudes on you, and it just starts talking. like, I think that commercial is designed to be really uncomfortable.
Probably, and that's what I briefly touching on is that's kind of the new commercial humor. Like, what's a way to get a quick laugh? Something like ridiculous. You saw it with the Old Spice commercials. You know. With
Oh God, yeah.
Which I think those commercials.
Those
are funny,
are classics.
With the moms, all over the place, and then I mean, you even had the one guy who's like, "Look at me, now look at him," and he's like,
"Now back to me."
Yeah,
yeah.
No. So it's kind of that bizarre sense of humor, which again, like, I mean, I giggled uncomfortably once I watched it with someone else, but watching it by myself was like just terrifying. You know? So I mean, I guess it stood out the most for me, but I mean, and like I said, we talked about 3, I think it was. Nothing. There weren't that many that really were like. No. That was a great commercial. And yeah. I mean, I can't think of a ton that stick out in the past, but I know usually
there's usually some good ones.
There's
like
usually
the
classic, I would say like 4 or 5.
Yeah, like the classic Snickers. Oh, and there was a good one this year with Snickers. Maryland.
Willem Dafoe. And,
yeah, the scariest man on the planet. Speaking of nightmares, that man is just made of. That man is made of tears of crying children.
He should have, if he would have been in the Kickstarter Mountain Dew.
Oh my God! Well. Yeah, you could have just put his face on it. 3 things you love: Puppy Monkey Dafoe.
Puppy Monkey Dafoe.
It just oh God, nightmare fuel.
Oh,
You're welcome, everyone.
Let's take our take our thoughts and minds off the nightmare creature. Next up, Star Wars. Kelly knows the whole backstory. I mean, I'm very familiar with the Star Wars.
I have not seen
6.
Light and Days.
Yeah, and so let's talk about The Force Awakens. I'll start out saying my thoughts on it, being someone that's not a diehard Star Wars fan, someone who's familiar with the series. As a movie, I enjoyed it. I went in with. And that's probably another thing is, I'm a big James Bond fan. I went and saw Spectre, thought it was great, but I had expectations for it that it didn't meet, you know what I mean? And so for me to see Star Wars and really like it, I guess I probably didn't have expectations that some people who are closer to it or follow it more really did.
Yeah, because for some people this was kind of like the second coming.
Exactly, and so I thought it delivered everything I wanted to see in a movie. So I really liked it. If we get into any spoiler territory, I'm not even going to apologize it from now because anyone who hasn't seen the movie doesn't care.
$2 billion in box office.
If you weren't one of those, I mean,
seriously.
Yeah. So
I know guys who've seen it like 3 or 4 times.
And I was honestly, I think it was a week and a half, 2 weeks after. And actually, I went to go see it with my dad, and it was sold out. So that was probably part of the reason why it took 2.5 weeks till I saw it.
Damn.
Regardless, my thoughts on it was I thought it was a really good movie. I didn't really have any problems that some people pointed out. Even, I heard a lot of the naysayers before I even went to see the movie, which usually it'll really kind of give you a little bias when you saw it. It still didn't have a problem with me. One of the things was Rey, her battle and her being so skilled as a Jedi, you know what I mean, when she hadn't really had any experience. And I was like, well, Jedi was, I was like, the Force came to her,
Yeah.
I was like, I can believe that. It doesn't need to be, and so that was just one of the big things. Was like, there's no way she would, there's no way she'd know how to battle him and even stand a chance, which she pretty much beat him. And I was like, I guess I didn't have a problem with it. As far as your thoughts on it, what did you think of it?
I liked it. I mean, I actually thought it was a pretty good movie. I mean,
and this is coming from someone who is a big fan.
Yeah,
knows the lore.
I love me some Star Wars, and honestly, it felt like a Star Wars movie, for better or for worse.
No doubt, and with it being directed by J.J. Abrams,
who is a well-known I love Star Wars kind of guy.
Yeah, and I think probably could have came into if you're a big Trekkie, if you're even a big fan of the Star Trek movies, which I like the first one.
Basically, that first his 2009 Star Trek, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, sorry.
That was the best Star Wars movie of the last 20 years. Where that Star Trek movie was practically a better Star Wars movie than the prequels were.
And see, Star Trek, the first movie was, I knew about William Shatner. I had seen some of the Voyager. Patrick
Stewart. With Next Generation.
That was my introduction into Star Trek,
great show.
And I really liked it, but it didn't. I thought it was a good movie, but it didn't like it didn't stick with me. I saw Into Darkness with the whole, Khan and everything, and I
Into Darkness was bad.
It built me up to think it was going to be really epic. Again, like having little knowledge about the background and stuff. I knew who Khan was and everything.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a big reveal or anything for me. I kind of felt like that's what they had to do as far as to up the ante.
To up the stakes, bringing in a recognizable character for the franchise.
But getting back to Star Wars, I just felt like maybe watching Star Wars, it would seem too much like Star Trek, and I guess what's J.J. Abrams, you got the Michael Bay when you think of certain styles, you got the low shots, slow-mo, explosions. When you think of J.J. Abrams, I think of the lens flare. It's about the biggest thing I think of.
A pretty...
kind of lens flared up, I felt like.
No, there not a whole lot of lens flare here. I think by this point he was kind of aware of the jokes.
Sure.
And was like, hey, I'll show you guys. And just kind of deliberately took that out. And, he probably has a deep love for the lens flare. I doubt that it's an accident. And, but instead of having the lens flare, there was so much that felt very much like something that you would have possibly seen during, like, the 80s Star Wars period. I mean, you even had the wipes. Like the wipe shots.
Yeah, he was very aware of, because that's what I was going to say. He was very aware of the traditions that had been.
He had seen those movies.
And he did that, and I felt like I was watching a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Going back to, like I said,
it felt like it could have been in that universe.
I went to the theaters for all of the prequels.
Yeah.
I went and saw all those.
Yeah, me too.
And I won't get into the whole long topic about what I thought of this and that. They had a certain feel about him, a certain look to him, I should say. And I felt like that was captured in J.J. Abrams. So my point being about all this is it just didn't feel like it was J.J. Abrams' take on Star Wars. It felt like it was a brand new installment.
It was just a continuation.
And I liked it. So it didn't... I think you get in the danger of when a new director or a director like that... just think if Star Wars was directed by Michael Bay. I would go see it. And again, another conversation I won't even get into. Michael Bay films, they're their own style. And you go see a Michael Bay film... because you're expecting to see a Michael Bay film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
you're
a Star Wars
see the explosions.
film.
Yeah.
The Star Wars film isn't a director's film. It's you know what I mean?
Yeah. Lucas only directed the first one.
Mm-hmm. And who was on the prequels? Do you remember? Was it the same director for those?
Lucas?
No, for the prequels, did he direct?
Yeah, he did all three of the prequels.
Okay.
Even though he didn't direct Empire, Irwin Kershner did.
Okay. But he did all three prequels. So
yeah.
Okay.
He did the first one.
Mm-hmm.
He did New Hope, but he was pretty much steering the ship on those prequels.
Mm-hmm. So, anyways, our consensus is we both liked it. You know more. You had a higher standard, I am assuming. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, there were some things that I thought that. Yeah, a lot of it was really. I know that this was an argument that people have already heard hundreds of times already, but I felt like it did kind of maybe reflect the other one a little too, like A New Hope maybe a little too much.
Kind of followed the same script.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like to reach that kind of audience, people are seeing this movie because of the nostalgia, because of the name value that Star Wars means. People are seeing it because their memories of being, seeing Darth Vader when they were 8 years old and thinking that he was the coolest thing they had ever seen in their lives. A big part of it is going to be the nostalgia of it. So reflecting that original plot in a weird way as far as like reaching the audience, while it might not have been the best thing for a story, I think was smart to get as many butts in those seats as possible.
Yeah.
Because people like... For better or for worse, I think people like being reminded of stuff that they've already seen. Mm-hmm. People appreciate the references to stuff like that. And I think that ultimately helped the movie gain the goodwill that it has. Because, people have complained about it. But for the most part, pretty well received, I haven't really known that many people who disliked it. Has like a 97 or something on Rotten Tomatoes too. The critic website, if you don't know what that website is, but
now this is again, it could spiral
tangent
out of
on a
control
tangent
quick.
on a tangent.
But, what was it? What was the name of the original Star Wars? I feel dumb. The first one, the number one.
A New Hope?
No. No, that's number 4, right?
Oh,
the prequel, number 1.
Oh, you mean
one,
like in terms of the timeline for the movie?
What was just the name of episode 1?
Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace. Okay. That one at first it was very well received, right? And then over the years did it become. So could this I don't think this is in danger of getting into that territory. I really don't. But maybe. But my point is just with how well it did.
I don't know. Star Wars is such a sacred cow that you could make an argument that you can never really make a follow-up to Star Wars and have it,
universally liked, maybe.
Yeah, but this one I thought was actually pretty good, especially, for a first installment. Mm-hmm. Because honestly,
of what's planned to be
of 3 movies.
Big.
Yeah, and then as far as what's next, the next Star Wars installment that we're going to be seeing, which is coming out at the end of the year, isn't even a follow-up to this.
Yeah.
It's an expansion of this
Rogue
universe.
One, right?
Yeah, Star Wars. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I think is what I think that's the official title
cast,
right now. Yeah.
All new characters out. It's based in the universe, but it's outside. Isn't it the build up to the Death Star attack? Right?
Yeah. It is. As far as I know, there's been a lot of rumors so far, but right now, what we do know is that it's set between Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and Episode 4, A New Hope.
Yes.
But besides that, we don't really know a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
We know the cast: Felicity Jones, who was Oscar nominated about a year ago for The Theory of Everything, the Stephen Hawking movie.
I didn't see it, but I know what that
is. Yeah. Forrest Whitaker.
No, I know Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, that dude's awesome. Mads Mikkelsen, he was the bad guy in Casino Royale.
Yep, Hannibal, stars of Hannibal.
Yeah. And the rumor, none of this has been confirmed, it's worth noting, but the rumor is that Mads Mikkelsen's character is kind of like a J. Robert Oppenheimer kind of guy, and I apologize to anyone who's listening to this, and I got the arguably, the father of the atomic bomb wrong, but the famous story that Oppenheimer saw what the bomb had done, and he that often famous quote, I think is actually a Hindu quote, the "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Sure.
Yeah. Oh man, I really wish I had Google in front of me right now, but that he is the guy who's who built the Death Star, or came up with the idea for it, and that he's very well respected within the Empire, but he feels tremendous guilt about it, and that's the rumor. And the rumors further say that that Felicity Jones's character is like his daughter, who's trying to stop the Death Star being built, or something like that. I'm not really sure. But there are rumors that we might see Darth Vader, actually. There was a promotional image for it a couple weeks ago. What got people's attention is that one of the promotional images was Slave One, which for all of you super mega nerdy people, such as myself, you would know is Boba Fett's ship. So some people think that Boba Fett's going to show up in this thing.
And I feel like this is very similar as far as when I think of cinema and stuff like that. It's an example kind of like Harry Potter and the film coming out, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's got a lot of. It's going to have pieces that everyone's familiar with to kind of tie it in to remind you that it's in that universe.
Yeah.
But it's going to stand on its own. And I mean, I look forward to that. But getting back to Star Wars and stuff, I think that's what they're probably. I think you can expect to see Darth Vader, Boba Fett, stuff like that, because you got to have that one thing that really, even if it's a cameo, it's like you see that and it's just, you know what I mean? It's like exciting and it creates the universe and expands it, much like, with like Marvel movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Even the cameos at the end, it's, it's like there's that character and it ties it in, it makes it a bigger thing, you get more excited about,
Yeah, for the next one. And even if you didn't see the thing at the end, you inevitably know someone who stuck around till the very end and the 1200th name in the credits and saw Sam Jackson in an eye patch show
And
up.
I find it funny. It's just like every movie I see now, I got to stick around to the end. I'm like, they're gonna have something at the end, and most of the time they don't.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of times, movie theaters will tell you there is nothing at the end. Like when I saw Star Wars, a guy who worked for the movie theater came in and was like, "Hi, we're glad you're here. Try to make some room because it's all sold out and everything." And just so you know, there's nothing at the end after the credits, because we're so used to it because of the Marvel movies. And even after I saw like The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, they had little pieces of paper right outside the door that said there are no after credit sequences.
And that's funny because I had just recently seen, the last movie I saw was A Revenant. And I was sticking around. I was like, I don't know what I'm waiting for. But it's not going to have anything at the end of this film. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just kind of you get stuck into watching it. So, anyways, what's the next? Now we got a Rogue One coming up at the end of this year. But when's the episode 7? Is it?
Yeah, it got
episode 8, right?
8, yeah.
Yeah.
It got. Well, first of all, Abrams isn't directing it.
I knew that.
Yeah, Ryan Johnson, who. I think that's how you say his name. It's R-A-N. I think it's just Ryan. And he directed Looper, which came out back in 2012, I want to say, 2012.
Yeah. Joseph Gordon-Levitt
and Bruce Willis. I actually,
time thriller.
I kind of love that movie.
I liked it. I didn't love it.
Really?
I liked that there was something different.
I thought the idea was great. It wasn't perfect, but I thought it was pretty solid. And as far as like in a sea of sci-fi, in a sea of of prequels, remakes, adaptations. I thought it was pretty cool to see something that had a decent amount of money put into it. That was a story that you hadn't really seen. And I thought that it was pretty well done.
So here's my question. So you have a guy like that who seems to kind of want to break the mold a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that will help here because...
And that's my question is, when you go see Star Wars, are you more concerned as a fan, you're really into it, are you more concerned about what the story's going to be like, what the movie's going to look like? You know what I mean? Because for me, it's a combination of both. I want a good story and I want a film that I like. But I mean, I'm not going to see something that's completely... I expect the film to look great, but I'm not expecting some new... Like, wow, this was a whole new way to shoot a film. You know what I mean? I want to, you know what I mean? So I guess my question is,
what do you mean, like the technical standpoint of it, or
you know what I mean? I want a good-looking film. As far as like art direction and stuff.
Yeah, but what do you mean?
But I'm saying that I'm wondering from you because I just like it to all come together as one. But as a Star Wars fan, do you get worried that someone might come in and try and do just like, for example, you talked about the lens flares. Some guy, maybe that's this guy's thing, you know what I mean, to put his spin on it, or do you want it to be a cohesive, like if you start getting different directors with different ideas, and I know they're not in charge of always the cinematography and stuff, but they have their own style. So I guess my just question is with this new director who's kind of broken the mold, with a story that should have a pretty good cohesive story and look to it, is that concerning for,
Yes and no. And the reason I think that is because, well, first of all, you want it to be its own story, obviously.
Sure.
Like yes, it's a continuation, but if it just feels like fan service, ultimately that doesn't get you very far, But if you're a part of this big franchise, people want to see recognizable elements, and I think the movie's gonna look awesome, the budget's gonna be great. I mean with the budget, Ryan Johnson knows what he's doing. I mean, Brick, if you ever saw that movie was gorgeous. The cinematography.
I've heard of it. I didn't see it though.
Yeah. It's like a Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie. It's like a crime noir mystery movie set in a high school, and it's actually fantastic. It's a great movie. You need to see it. And
is it older, newer?
2005, and like Rian Johnson he hasn't made that many movies, but from what I've seen, I haven't seen one that I haven't liked. And honestly, I think that having a new voice, like in order to make these things still, keep going and be just enough of familiar elements, but to add new things so it doesn't become very samey vanilla, where everything just kind of feels like an homage onto an homage onto an homage into like a masturbatory, frenzy. That I think that he's probably the guy who's going to be able to elevate it to that, kind of like what Empire was to the Star Wars movies. Mm-hmm. Empire Strikes Back, because it's like the other movies, but it's a lot funnier. The action, a lot of the most iconic parts of the Star Wars franchise come from Empire. I don't know, I would argue that it's better than A New Hope, and that it kind of upped the game for everything, for that franchise. And hopefully, I could completely be wrong, but hopefully that's what's going to happen here. Because, as someone who's spent, a lot of time watching the movies, I haven't read a lot of the extended universe,
sure.
The book universe that was created after the movies came out. The Easter eggs and stuff like that are nice, but the movie is ultimately, the story and the performances and everything, that is ultimately the point of why you're there. So, it's a balance.
And so now I just looked this up, and I don't know if it has the actual title of it. Episode 8 is what we know it is.
Yeah.
December 15th, 2017.
Yeah.
Next year. There was a delay in it, right? It was
there
pushed
were
back.
Rumors that they were rewriting some stuff. Yeah.
Regardless, so to kind of conclude this, we our thoughts on the movie. What do you kind of hope for Episode 8? What do you kind of hope? What are your thoughts on where the story's going to go? Ending with Ren, finding Luke Skywalker. There's theories that it's not her father, as in. I heard a pretty awesome theory. This could take longer than we expect. Whatever. The theory is that wouldn't it be great if Obi-Wan was Rey's actual lineage?
That's what a lot of people think, actually.
Because, they talk about, the Skywalker and the good and the evil, and how it's, kind of been up and down for all of them. And if it was Obi-Wan Kenobi who was actually the only, pure character in Star Wars...
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great if that's what it wasn't the Skywalker story, it was the Kenobi story, and that's what I read from someone who had a theory on what.
A lot of people think that Rey is either Obi-Wan's kid or Luke's kid, or that he's that she's a Skywalker or a Kenobi, and I don't know.
What if she was Boba Fett's kid?
What?
Couldn't be because I don't. He wasn't obvious. There was no inclination.
Chewbacca's
that he was
long lost cousin.
Something
Yes.
just out of left field.
Yes.
I really hope that she's not a Skywalker.
No.
Maybe there are people who would be like, well, no. Maybe, but I kind of hope that's not that's not the case. I think it would be cool just from my own perspective. Obi-Wan trains Luke. Luke trains Rey. She turns out to be kind of a full circle thing.
Yeah, a full circle thing. But at the same time, I don't know if I'd be all that upset if maybe she just wasn't related to anybody.
That would be my second
option. It's just a new thing. People would be disappointed because they want to have that connection to previous parts of the lore. But at the same time, come on. Is it really that hard to believe that there's a different family that, that's capable of
And they
having
already
Force
did it
abilities?
with Han and Leia's kid. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? They already did this. Like,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
everything going to have an end tied up?
Yeah, seriously. Nothing can be based on something new.
And perhaps it would be better for, like, the Rogue One and all these other series if it was a new lineage that could maybe be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, a lot of people think that, I forgot to mention this. There's a theory, that Felicity Jones's character in Rogue One is actually Rey's mom. Because they do kind of look alike if you see them.
Yeah.
Brown hair, fairly, like, pale, British actresses. And
that was another thing that kind of got into us because she's got a British accent. Obi-Wan obviously had a British,
because people inherit accents.
Yeah, exactly. But you gotta wonder. I mean, I guess you got the different languages, alien things, but where's the British accent?
I don't know. Be kind of a dick move. Obi-Wan. But when would he have had? Yeah. So is it like his granddaughter?
And I don't. The timeline kind of. Do you know what the timeline was for?
I think this is like
20 years?
Yeah, like 20 years or so.
Because, I mean, it's kind of what the legitimate timeline is, right?
Well...
Similar?
Let's see, 83... No, it would have been... Let's see... Return of the Jedi came out in 83. So... God, I wish I was smarter
22?
at math. Yeah.
22 years?
Yeah.
Came out in 2015. So about 22 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well... Anyways, I know we could talk about this for a long time, and we'll probably discuss it as more information comes out, maybe, or just when we got nothing else to talk about. So let's move on to our next topic, last one of the podcast, which who knows how long we could talk about this, but DC Comics, the movies, the recent string coming up, starting with Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, March 25th.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have Suicide Squad coming out on August 8th.
Yes.
In August?
As far as I know, August 8th of
it's
this
in
year.
August.
Yeah.
We have, and again, now, this is me coming from someone who's familiar with some of the background, the history. I go on, like, IGN.com, things like that. You know what I mean? I'm familiar with some of the basic comic elements and different storylines, graphic novels and stuff, but I know you have a lot deeper knowledge of it, which is great. So, I mean, this will be one of the, whatever you want to call it, not as knowledgeable about it, more of the film history. I kind of have that better idea.
Yeah, like the ideas of the movies. And,
yeah.
You've seen all those, and I have just drowned in Wikipedia entries.
Sure.
And,
and that's where I go and look at it. And I go to you and I say, hey Kelly, this and that. And you're like, oh, here's this story, and so that's where we're coming from. I guess I'm pumped to see Batman vs Superman. Me personally, I enjoyed Man of Steel. We talked about this the other day when I said the worst part about it was the ending where destroy everyone. That's kind of what everyone's had a problem with. Although it seems almost as if it was intentional by Zack Snyder, the director of Man of Steel,
to establish that he's a god, basically.
And it was kind of from what I got from the trailer, that was the reason why Bruce Wayne is kind of getting involved is the destruction of Metropolis, one of the Wayne Tower.
With some really heavy 9/11 imagery going on.
Yeah. And so that kind of seems to set up. Tell me a little bit more about just your thoughts on Batman versus Superman. And I'll tell you what I think.
Okay,
what did you think of Man of Steel?
I was not a big Man of Steel guy.
Was it the tone?
A little bit. Well, everything was just so damn gray. I mean, everything was just so... Even, like, the actual cinematography, everything was just covered in gray. And while Superman does not have to be, like, this stereotypical Boy Scout character, in fact, he's He's never really been that way. Mm-hmm. I mean, even if you look back at the if you go way back, like in his first appearance in Action Comics #1, so for all of you, 90-year-old comic book fans who are listening to this, you'll definitely get this one. even if you go back into the 1938 Action Comics #1, he's taking down corrupt politicians, he's busting down doors, he's grabbing people, by the waist and like, you're gonna admit that this person is innocent, He was never really a Boy Scout. That was kind of something that got kind of wormed its way into the character later.
And it
so
seems like that probably...
And he's killed... It's worth noting that he has killed General Zod a lot in the comics.
And Zack Snyder just came out kind of defending Man of Steel recently, saying that, he didn't get into details, but he just said if you're a fan of the Superman comics, you know that I didn't change Superman.
Yeah.
And see, I'd always known, but I mean, I knew one thing about Batman was that he didn't... His goal was to not kill.
Well,
at least that was what my general understanding.
Yeah, that's the more recent thing.
Mm-hmm. And I'd pick that up through the like Arkham, the video games.
Yeah, the video games.
You know what I mean? As far as in like
the
Christopher
movies,
Nolan's films.
Yeah,
he didn't kill.
Even Batman the animated series. Yeah. There's been a very big emphasis on no killing. I mean, if you really want to go back into it, in Batman's first appearance, he used a gun. So that was stuff.
And in the new trailer for Batman vs. Superman, he's got like a shotgun or some sort of... I'm imagining it as some sort of like...
I bet it's going to be a stun gun or something.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bullet. Someone I've seen comments, people saying, Batman standing with a shotgun looks weird. I guess for me, watching the Christopher Nolan films and really enjoying them, but being hyped up. I loved Batman Begins when I first saw it in 2005. I really liked it. I loved The Dark Knight. Saw it like 4 times in the theater, most I've ever seen in a film. Dark Knight Rises, enjoyed it. I was amped up about the character of Bane, a little disappointed with the actual execution. I felt like Batman was like, I guess I didn't really care if he won or not. You know what I mean?
That was a movie that definitely suffered from the expectations.
I think it did too. And while I definitely don't, I'm not like saying it was bad or anything. I didn't really like it. I guess I was just, it failed to live up to The Dark Knight when it wasn't about, oh, well, you had such a performance by Heath Ledger. Because I thought Tom Hardy did a great job as Bane, and he was intimidating, and it was a cool character. And I thought the voice was, while I knew it was going to be parodied, I liked it. It was different, you know what I mean?
The performance worked.
It wasn't even so much about the villain wasn't as bad enough or scary enough, and I guess it just didn't do what I I'd hope. My point talking about that is that was done. That was the realistic Batman, the cool, you know what I mean? It was its own story, just, like any sort of run in comics, it was its own storyline, whatever. I'm excited to see the Ben Affleck, who I saw Daredevil when it came out. I was into Evanescence back then. I enjoyed Daredevil. I watched it like 2 years ago, and I was like, man, this movie's cheesy all the way.
It's okay. We all have our guilty pleasures.
And that was
I will defend Space Jam till my dying day.
Yeah, and I want to hear someone talk bad about Space Jam. You just don't do it.
Yeah. But as far as like kind of like the things that you really loved when you were younger.
And so that got off on. I don't have a problem with Ben Affleck as Batman. I mean, if you've seen The Town, loved Ben Affleck and Ben Affleck hit a point where he was the biggest joke of Hollywood. I think you got Geely, you got these.
Surviving Christmas.
You got, I don't know.
Paycheck. He literally did a movie called Paycheck, for God's sake.
I saw it, and
you saw Paycheck?
I saw Paycheck.
I think you were one of two.
Aaron Eckhart, right?
Yeah, I think you were one of two. Like you and my dad, I think were the only people who saw Paycheck.
I was like, whatever. I saw some of All Fears. The Tom Clancy
thriller.
Yeah. I saw a lot of Ben Affleck movies, and not because I was like a Ben Affleck fan, but I just saw him. But anyways, The Town, I saw The Town. I love Ben Affleck in The Town.
He won an Oscar,
Affleck
Best
was
Picture
the bomb in Phantoms,
yes. Yes.
So, Reindeer Games. Best line of... we're gonna find a name for our podcast, and it's just gonna be called like Tangents.
Yeah,
it should be called
seriously, like, Tangents. Yeah,
because one thought leads into another, and as soon as I think of Ben Affleck Reindeer Games, I think of the best line. The best line of the Avengers is it was like, all right, Reindeer Games, and Iron Man shows up with Loki, and he's like, cool at Reindeer Games or whatever. I was like, that's a great reference.
Yeah.
So, anyways. This all comes back to, if we can harness it in, Ben Affleck as Batman, and I'm fine with it. He's got the chin. He looks like he's beefed up for the role.
He was really good in Gone Girl.
I mean, Gone Girl. I got no problem with Affleck.
He was
He's
fine
a
in
great
Gone Girl.
director.
Yeah, a great director.
I got no problem with Affleck as Batman.
People just like to hate on
and it's
Ben
fine.
Affleck.
But I mean, I just felt like the outlet, or the backlash was just a bit much.
Oh yeah,
Ben Affleck's Batman. I'm not seeing it. You're gonna see it. You're lying to yourself. You're not gonna see it.
because people didn't like Heath Ledger.
I mean, I just was like, I'm curious to see how this is gonna play out, but
a lot of people were really upset, that Heath Ledger was cast in that part. It was like, oh, what, the Brokeback Mountain guy? This is a terrible idea.
And one thing about this, sorry to cut you off, but when we talk about casting that I was a little is Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I think they should have been mandated some sort of contract. Not Kevin Spacey. What am I thinking? Who's House of Cards? Why can't I?
No, that's Kevin Spacey.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
I get it mixed up with Kevin Klein. Kevin Klein all the time for some reason. I've always done it.
They look nothing alike.
No, it's some sort of going
Kevin
back
thing.
to the when I worked in a video store. And it was the covers of movies, and it was like In and Out with Kevin Klein, and it was like
In and Out is great. I
Cider
love
House Rules,
completely.
Kevin Klein, but it was next to a film with Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, next to like American Beauty or something.
Kevin Spacey should have to play Lex Luthor, because I think if you look back at Superman Returns, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With Brandon Routh or Routh.
Routh, yeah.
That was Lex Luthor to me.
Yeah.
I don't know who should be your idea of Lex Luthor, but I don't see Jesse Eisenberg. And in the trailer for BVS, his Lex Luthor is a little concerning for me. And again, this is coming from someone who's not a hardcore comic book kind of guy, but I don't like him. And I'm wondering if it's the wolves being pulled over our eyes, and he's being this eccentric. I mean, if Jesse Eisenberg would have just played Mark Zuckerberg, if he would have played that character as Lex Luthor, I feel like I'd be more intrigued by it, but I'm not.
I think that's kind of why they casted him, because when I heard that he was going to be Lex Luthor, I saw, a million Twitter posts like, what is this? And I don't know, when I first heard that he was being cast in that part, it made sense to me, because I thought, like, from a modern perspective, who would be your modern, like, Lex Luthor? Like, this genius industrialist. It makes sense if he was, like, like a tech computer, like a social media startup kind of guy.
Yeah.
You could easily see, like Mark Zuckerberg. So they cast the guy who played Mark Zuckerberg. And I guess everybody's just annoyed, like, by the way he acts, that he's all like, hey, he's just like way too smiley and just like really peppy.
And again, maybe not knowing all the lore and all the background. I mean, I guess I just not my
idea. He's not
idea
really
of
like
him.
that. He's really not like that.
So I mean, we'll see about it. What are you looking forward to most for BVS, and what are you most concerned about?
As far as what I'm looking forward to, I'm excited about, honestly, sadly enough, I guess there isn't a whole lot that's really like, yeah, I need to see this. I mean, I'm going to see it because I love DC. I will defend it, till the end of the day. But I guess the thing that I'm most excited about is Ben Affleck as Batman. Like, at this point,
the reimagined Batman after Christian Bale.
Yeah, and they needed to
Nolan.
do something different, so they've already established that this Batman has already been around for a while. You see in one of the trailers a Robin suit with like bullet holes in it.
Yep.
And for anyone who knows what that's referencing, that's Death of the Family, which was an 80s comic that had the second Robin, Jason Todd. He was murdered by the Joker back in like 85, and where he was beaten half to death with a crowbar, and then the Joker blows up the warehouse he left him in. And okay, I know that this is another tangent on a tangent, but this is just fascinating to me because I don't know if you know this, but DC wanted fans to to vote on whether this character, this Robin, should live or not.
Uh-huh.
And
for the film?
Yeah, no, for the comic.
For the comic, okay.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, this is when the
yes,
vote was
back in the 80s, they took out an 800 number and they asked fans to vote in, should Jason Todd live or should he die? And overwhelmingly, fans were like, kill him. They hated him. They thought he was just like a streetwise punk. You know, they were following he was following the other Robin character, Dick Grayson, which had been around since like 1941. And they overwhelmingly, they were like, kill this character. You know, fans were like, kill this fictional character that's supposed to be like a 15-year-old boy. And so I just think that's really interesting. And anyway, they brought back the Jason Todd character as a guy called the Red Hood like 20 years later, but that's neither here nor there. But did you know any of that, by the way?
I knew who.
Okay, so
I knew a little bit about him. I didn't know the let's have fans call in if we're gonna kill him. I didn't know he was hated.
Yeah, and so that's where they think a lot of some of Batman's guilt is going to be coming from. The fact that he's already had a couple Robins. You know, he's been a while. One is dead by the Joker's hands, and.
Which kind of seems like it might be the case in this film because it's got like "ha ha ha" written all over it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And I think it's going to be... Honestly, I think the thing that I'm really looking forward to now is just seeing how the story will play out. Because, like, we know that the movie is going to focus on the fact that Superman destroyed a lot of things at the end of the first movie, which I think is a really smart way to go and shows that Zack Snyder had a game plan here, you know? And I think just to see how that develops, like how the world is going to view Superman here, I think is going to be worth seeing. And
what are you concerned about?
Maybe just too much going on.
I think that. Do you feel like this movie can really fail, though? Do you feel like just say,
like financially, or
I mean, do you think it can be? I mean, I think there's no doubt that there's a possibility that it could disappoint. But as far as like not making a ton of money, do you think there is any way that it's not?
No, I think it's probably going to make bank.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, if not even for Man of Steel did really well at the box office. And Batman is Batman. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that people would see it just for Batman. If this, unfortunately, I hate to say it, if this was a solo Batman movie, people would see it.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of people are going to see it. But kind of going back to what you were saying, it's just
got a lot going on.
Yeah, you know, I mean, because you're going to have to focus on Superman, you know, because if you don't see how Superman is reacting to some of these challenges, like people hating him, you know.
Maybe that'll rebuild him to that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of like bringing him up. I think I read an interview where this movie would be bringing him up to the status of being Superman, like the Superman that we know. Mm-hmm. And if they can do that, I think that will be interesting. You know, going from like the Man of Steel Superman, who I'm sorry, Henry Cavill, I don't know whether it was just the way he was playing the character, but I kept thinking serial killer every time I was looking at him.
And see, that's funny because I liked him. I like Henry. I like him as Superman.
He just like, yeah, Superman has killed people in the comics, but he's not like necessarily like I'm gonna pop off Lois Lane's head and put it in my refrigerator in Antarctica.
Sure.
Which is what I was thinking when I saw that.
Do you think there's any idea? Maybe it is such an origin story that we're not even comprehending it yet because we've all seen the movies. We know a little bit about it, even if you're like me and don't have all that. But he is an alien.
Yeah.
When it all comes down to things, maybe aliens when they're first on Earth for a while, like inheriting, you know what I mean? Granted, he grew up and him and Kevin Costner's, the father son, it was pretty normal, so you didn't think like, well, you know, he never really had time to figure out how to be normal. But when he finally, you know what I mean, grew up and had to deal with all these things, maybe that's the way of an alien deals with it. Looks a bit serial killer.
It's a trial of fire. Yeah, because this is literally someone from a different planet.
And the thing that stuck out to me too is, which I would assume to be un-Superman-like, is the scene, the bar fight, where he goes and then afterwards he trashes the guy's truck and hangs it up on power lines.
I kind of like that one.
I liked it, but I'm thinking that's messed up, man. That's like he's got some serious grudges he's holding. You know what I mean? Most people be like, oh, he could have punched him and stuff. No, he went out of his way to literally like.
Yeah, potentially like ruin his cover or whatever.
I mean, anyways, so you're excited to see this.
But there's just so much going on.
Concerned with how much is going to be going on.
Yeah, because Wonder Woman's going to be in it too, and you have to establish Wonder Woman. I heard that they're going to establish Cyborg in some way in this movie.
The Flash is going to be in his list.
Yeah, I think I heard that. Yeah,
Ezra Miller's going to be playing the Flash.
Yeah, that he'll be in
Aquaman's
there.
in it. Jason Momoa.
Yeah, plus Doomsday. The giant spiky guy.
And I have heard rumors that Darkseid that's the main villain.
Yeah, you do see his a symbol. Yeah. And that's just so much for one movie.
Here's my
There's
take on it.
There's so many irons in the fire.
I don't think it's gonna really disappoint. I mean, I watched Man of Steel and I liked it, and I feel like. Even I was just read something, I think when it was Zack Snyder was talking about defending Man of Steel and everything. He's done Watchmen. I liked it. If not, it was kind of obscure. So I didn't really have a connection with the characters, but I liked the film. I thought it was, I liked it. Anyways, that could be a whole nother conversation, I'm certain.
Yeah.
I think what Marvel has legitimately given some sort, it actually has helped out DC.
There's a blueprint.
Because in the fact that it has gone so well with like doing these, it did let's build up these characters with their solo movies, then do an Avengers film, and then do phase 2 and this stuff. Whereas I think DC is kind of looking at it as reverse, as we talked about it. Dawn of Justice, you're going to set up some of these characters, mainly Superman, Batman, the two main guys.
Yeah, the two big ones.
It's going to have some characters that are going to be introduced. Wonder Woman, I think, is playing a pretty significant role. I think Aquaman, the Flash will be very minor. Might even be like an ending cameo deal.
Yeah, maybe, someone who will just show up at the very end.
All these
you'll see
characters,
like a red Flash.
Yep, will be in it. And then also we'll have Suicide Squad, which I don't think we're going to get really into today. But it's establishing the villains in their own movie, establishing the heroes in their own movie. It's kind of reverse. And the thing which, that the Avengers had a payoff. And so you can kind of assume that the DC will have a payoff when they do Justice League, which is already planned. Justice League 1 and 2.
Oh yeah, Snyder is doing that too.
And again, it could be concerning if Snyder fails to deliver in ways. I don't think it's possible that it really bombs. But if he fails it could be concerning that he's already signed up for Justice League. Yeah. And I just don't see people not going and seeing these films.
People are going to see it anyway.
You know what I mean? And I think they're going to see Suicide Squad, and they're going to see Justice League, and it's going to be the same thing with anyone who, their expectations aren't met. They're going to be hungry to get them, to see the next film. You look at, just kind of sidetracked a little bit, if you looked at Fantastic Four, it was a terrible movie, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It really was. It's a Marvel property in essence, but it's a Sony property. The film is Fox, but it's still Marvel characters, what I mean, right? So what I'm saying is that these characters, they're gonna, if you do another Fantastic Four movie, say you did in 2 years, I bet you people still go see it. If they build the right hype.
Nobody even saw this one.
Well, I didn't. I mean, I thought it was too soon from the first two.
It bombed.
It was a bad movie, and I thought it was promoted poorly.
It was pretty bad. The hype was terrible.
And I think the hype around all these DC films they're doing a great job marketing. Suicide Squad, I'm slightly more excited.
The hype is kind of great for that one.
I'm going to actually say it's probably even. And like I said, before we get into it, start going nuts, I will save that for Suicide Squad. This is a whole nother story. For me personally, BVS, what I'm looking forward to most is I want to see these characters come together. I want to see this new Batman, like you said. I want to see the battle, Superman. I want to see, the bat suit, the bat armor. I want to see Lex Luthor's fleshed out. I want to see Wonder Woman fleshed out a little bit. I want to see,
But all in one movie, though. That is so much, and I'm sorry. I don't think that Zack Snyder is necessarily the Michael Bay Jr. that some people like to make him out to be.
Mhm.
I thought the 300 was actually a pretty good movie.
Love 300.
Yeah. Watchmen had its moments. You could argue that it was
a bit long.
way too beholden to the comic. And
Sure.
that and did you that's a whole nother like podcast, but I think that he is not quite the let's blow stuff up because it'll be awesome kind of guy that some people
I think he's a little more methodical. He's got
a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, hell, what the hell do I know? But at the same time, there hasn't been a whole lot on that dude's resume that tells me that he can juggle all of those tones. And at the same time, I would love to happily eat my shoe on this one. I'd love to be wrong.
But as a fan of Star Wars and stuff, even though you like, there's such a high level of expectations for this, and again, it's a gift of what Marvel has shown can be done and how like the kind of movies that can be made. Mm-hmm. It's also a curse because at least Marvel, in my opinion, has been doing it well.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So DC they're up to the plate. They get a shot at it. They're going to build off a lot of excitement and hype already built up on the Avengers. But if they don't deliver, I think it's good. I mean, people are still going to go see these. We can pretty much guarantee. Some definitely things that were kind of, okay, this could happen. That. Yeah. But it's high expectations, but it's also, I mean, I feel like they can meet them. I feel like, I don't know how you can go wrong when you got it's served up on I feel like Suicide Squad has a higher, I think it's more likely could go awry.
Yeah, director, really?
I feel like that Suicide Squad has a higher chance of like not doing as well.
Oh, box office wise?
I feel like, and reception wise.
I don't know, man. I feel like Suicide Squad almost has a better shot. Because it doesn't have quite the incredible expectations.
We've already seen Man of Steel. We've seen Superman. We kind of know what we're getting. You kind of like him or you don't like him, and maybe the jury's out.
Yeah.
Batman, you can't really do him wrong. You know what I mean? Everyone likes seeing Batman. I guess unless he just started going on a rampage killing everyone, people would be upset. People are going to like seeing Batman. The other characters, Wonder Woman, I don't think they're really going to go wrong with it. You got a movie with establishing your villains. Someone like, I think the Joker you could go so wrong with him that in ways you can't go wrong with Batman.
I'm interested to see how, because I know that the internet basically collectively laughed its ass off and crapped its pants when seeing the pictures of Jared Leto.
I like him. I'm excited for it, but the jury's still out and it could go very wrong.
Yeah.
I'm still excited.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that's just my opinion of I think it could go more wrong. And you have all these super villains that you're going to try to establish, and if Deadshot could go wrong. You know what I mean? Yeah. You got Will Smith in it. I'm still thinking Will Smith as anyone is Will Smith. Let's go save the world. I'm like, well, come on, Will Smith is Will Smith. He's not even acting anymore.
Yeah,
it's Will Smith.
You're not just Will Smith playing Deadshot.
Will Smith is Christopher Walken. He's becoming. You know what I mean? It's just Will Smith
like a parody onto himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm a little worried about that, but I think the one who's really going to carry that movie is going to be Margot Robbie.
And I think she's going to do fine. I think it's going to be all right.
And if you look back at that trailer, there's going to be flashbacks. I think a lot of the movie, at least a decent amount of it, is going to focus on her relationship with the Joker and seeing how she became, Harley Quinn.
And I think that is going to be something that is what I'm going to say. It's up in the air. We don't know how it's going to turn out. Yeah. But anyways, we started getting into Suicide Squad, which we thought we weren't going to do, but that's kind of how these things work.
Help it.
I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Hopefully we get another podcast out in a week or so. We're still coming up with a name. Still coming up with a good way to transition to things to talk about. For now, comment below things you'd like us to talk about. Praise the quality of the show and our conversations,
or lack thereof.
Call us a couple dickheads, whatever, whatever you want to do. If you're listening, that's good enough for me. Just get things going. So it's a work in progress. For now, it's Eric Stafford, Kelly Rocheleau. To be named podcast, possible name, tangent, spree of tangents.
Tangent on tangent
The
on tangent.
What is that? The tangential circle, something?
Yeah.
What is it? They cross and they can. Okay. I don't know. All right. Well, that does it for this this initial.
For whatever this is.
This first podcast. Thanks for listening.